In the journey of life, we all face moments of hardship, moments that challenge the very core of our being. These moments, though difficult, are often the ones that reveal the deepest truths about ourselves. Charles Spurgeon, the great preacher, expounds on this idea by explaining how adversity serves as a mirror, reflecting not just our weaknesses, but also our strengths, our faith, and our true character. When life is smooth, it is easy to navigate and move forward without thinking much about our limitations. However, it is in the most challenging times that our true nature comes to the surface. Adversity forces us to confront what lies beneath the surface, often exposing aspects of our personality, spirituality, and resilience that we may not have been aware of. And such negotiation requires within us the ability to find the fighting spirit to live, and resilience that we may not have been aware of. For instance, when faced with a significant loss, financial difficulty, or personal betrayal, we might initially react with anger, fear, or despair. But as time passes, these reactions offer us an opportunity to see where our heart is, whether we are clinging to faith, or perhaps struggling with bitterness or doubt. This process of self-discovery is not always comfortable. In fact, it can be quite painful. But, as Spurgeon illustrates, it is through these trials that God reveals not only what needs to be transformed in us, but also what strength we already possess. Just as a sculptor chisels away at a block of marble to reveal a masterpiece, our struggles often chip away at our pride, selfishness, and false perceptions, leaving us more refined and more aligned with God's will. Think of it as a tree growing in the wild. When a tree is young, it grows quickly, seeking sunlight and nourishment. But when a storm comes, the tree must endure the battering winds and heavy rain. These forces may cause the tree to bend or lose some leaves, but they also strengthen the roots and branches. The tree's resilience is built through the struggle. Similarly, as we face adversities, our spiritual roots grow deeper, and our branches, our capacity for love, understanding, and compassion, becomes stronger. Adversity can reveal our dependence on God. In times of ease, we may begin to rely more on our own abilities, thinking that we can manage life on our own. But when challenges arise, we are often brought to a place where we realize our limitations. In these moments, God becomes our refuge and strength. Adversity teaches us the truth that we are not self-sufficient and that our strength and wisdom come from a higher source. This realization is not only humbling, but also profoundly liberating. Spurgeon also emphasizes that adversity exposes the quality of our faith. When life is good, it is easy to say we trust in God, but when we are faced with a trial, the depth of that trust is tested. Do we cling to God's promises in the midst of the storm, or do we give in to doubt and fear? The struggle reveals whether our faith is rooted deeply in God's truth, or whether it is a fragile faith that crumbles at the first sign of difficulty. The revelation that comes through adversity often leads to a more authentic and compassionate relationship with others. When we have gone through our own struggles, we are better equipped to empathize with others who face similar hardships. The pain we endure opens our hearts to those who suffer, making us more compassionate and understanding. In this way, adversity becomes a tool not only for discovering our own strength and limitations, but also for deepening our relationship with God and with others. It strips away the layers of pretense and allows us to come face to face with the truth of who we are. And though this truth can sometimes be difficult to accept, it is through this process that we become more fully the people God created us to be. Adversity is often seen as something we should avoid or escape, but Charles Spurgeon teaches us that it serves as a powerful catalyst for spiritual growth. Just as athletes go through rigorous training to build physical strength, we must endure spiritual challenges to develop and fortify our faith. Trials and hardships, though difficult and uncomfortable, provide an opportunity for us to grow stronger in ways that we would not experience in times of ease. When we face hardships, it is easy to become disheartened, questioning the reasons behind our struggles. However, Spurgeon explains that these difficulties are part of God's plan to refine us. In his analogy, he likens our spiritual journey to that of an athlete preparing for a competition. An athlete doesn't simply sit back and hope for strength to emerge. They actively work, face pain, and push through limits to build endurance. Similarly, our spiritual lives require intentional effort. We often find that the greatest growth in our faith comes when we face challenges head-on, and very often face challenges head-on. This comparison to physical training is profound because it emphasizes the need for perseverance. Spiritual growth doesn't come overnight. It requires time, effort, and most importantly, the ability to keep pushing through adversity. Without trials, there would be little opportunity to exercise our spiritual muscles. Much like lifting weights to increase muscle strength, facing spiritual challenges allows us to strengthen our trust in God, our patience, and our reliance on His wisdom. The Apostle James captures this idea perfectly when he writes in his letter, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." James 1:02, verse 3. Trials test our faith, but they also help it to mature. It is through these tests that we learn to lean on God's understanding and not our own. When we rely on His promises in the midst of hardship, our faith becomes deeper and more resilient. Spurgeon's perspective challenges us to shift our view of suffering. Instead of seeing it as a burden or punishment, we're invited to see it as an opportunity for growth. Trials are not always pleasant, but they serve a purpose that we might not immediately understand. When we endure hardship with a spirit of faith, we are allowing ourselves to be shaped into individuals who are capable of handling even greater challenges. Here is one. This transformation strengthens us for future spiritual battles and enables us to encourage others who may be going through similar struggles. Because we live with God every day, brotherhood is revealed in action. We wait for the Spirit to lead, for it has blessed us to be the brethren of those who live by faith. Spurgeon also highlights the importance of God's presence in our trials. He does not leave us to face adversity alone. Instead, He walks with us, providing comfort, guidance, and strength through His Word and His Spirit. Even in the most difficult moments, when we feel weak or incapable of enduring any further, God equips us to persevere. It is through His strength that we grow spiritually, learning to rely less on our own abilities and more on His power. The athlete analogy is also instructive in that it teaches us about the importance of endurance. Athletes do not stop training when the going gets tough. They push through the discomfort because they know that the end result will be worth the effort. Similarly, our spiritual lives require us to persevere through hardships because we know that God uses these trials to strengthen our faith and deepen our character. Our people sometimes find themselves in times of tribulation when their spiritual waters will be struggling to keep them awake, and physical distress will keep them awake. The challenges we face are not in vain, for they are the very things that shape us into the people we are meant to become. Through these struggles, we are shaped into stronger individuals, equipped with a deeper understanding of God's love and faithfulness. The growth that comes from enduring hardship is invaluable because it brings us closer to the image of Christ. Thus, while we may not seek out trials, we can learn to embrace them as opportunities for spiritual growth. Adversity is often seen as something to avoid or something that tests our endurance, but Charles Spurgeon offers a transformative perspective. He suggests that difficulties are not merely obstacles to overcome, but rather preparations for greater blessings. This idea of God using adversity to prepare us for something better is profound. Just as a gardener carefully prunes a plant to encourage stronger, more fruitful growth. God allows certain trials in our lives to refine us and prepare us for a greater future. Evasion 1. Spurgeon compares adversity to the pruning process of a vine, where the vine is cut back in specific places to ensure it produces more and better fruit. While the pruning may appear harsh or even painful to the vine, it is essential for its long-term well-being. Similarly, the difficulties we face may seem difficult and painful at the moment, but they are meant to shape us for a greater purpose. The pruning does not destroy the vine, rather it enhances its ability to grow and bear fruit. In the same way, God uses adversity to remove the excess from our lives, the distractions, the pride, the self-reliance that can hinder our spiritual growth. Without challenges, we might become complacent, comfortable in our faith, without ever truly reaching our full potential. Adversity pushes us to step outside of our comfort zones, to rely more on God, and to develop the perseverance needed for spiritual maturity. When we go through trials, it often feels like we are being held back or even broken. However, the experience is actually a preparation for greater things. The Apostle Paul speaks about this in Romans 5, verse 3-5, where he writes that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance builds character, and character leads to hope. Through these struggles, we are shaped into better versions of ourselves, equipped with the strength and wisdom to handle greater challenges in the future. Spurgeon also points out that God does not allow adversity to come without a purpose. He is not indifferent to our pain, but is actively working in and through it. The challenges we face are not random or without meaning. They are divinely ordained experiences that have the potential to lead us to a deeper understanding of God's love, grace, and faithfulness. The more we embrace this perspective, the more we will learn to trust that, even in the midst of hardship, God is preparing us for something better. We may not see the immediate results of our struggles, but in time we will recognize how those experiences have shaped us and made us more capable of handling future blessings. Through adversity, we are refined like gold, purified and strengthened to face what lies ahead with greater resilience. Adversity becomes a tool in God's hands to bring about growth and transformation. While it may feel uncomfortable or even unbearable at times, we can trust that God is using it to prepare us for something much greater. It is not punishment, but preparation. And in the end, we will be better for it. Spurgeon's teaching encourages us to view our struggles not as burdens to bear, but as steps toward a more fruitful and blessed life. We should trust that God's pruning, though painful in the moment, is for our good. It is through adversity that we are prepared for the greater blessings that God has in store for us. Charles Spurgeon often spoke about how adversity serves as a teacher in our spiritual lives, providing us with lessons that cannot be acquired through ease or comfort. This notion is a key element of his sermons, where he likens the struggles and trials we face to the invaluable lessons learned from a teacher whose methods may sometimes feel harsh, but ultimately result in deep personal and spiritual growth. When we encounter difficult circumstances in life, they often force us to confront aspects of our character that may otherwise remain hidden. Without adversity, we may never learn what we are truly capable of, nor do we realize how much we still need to grow. Trials expose the weaknesses in our hearts, the flaws in our beliefs, and the areas in which our faith may not be as strong as we thought. These revelations are not always comfortable, but they are necessary. Just as a teacher highlights mistakes to help a student improve, adversity brings to light our imperfections to refine us. Let's get back to the passage. Spurgeon teaches that, like a good teacher, adversity doesn't simply point out our flaws, it also offers us the opportunity to grow. When we face hardship, we are not left without resources. Instead, it is during such times that we often turn our attention more keenly toward God. We search for answers in the Scriptures, pray more fervently, and depend on Him in ways we might not when life is easy. Just as a student might struggle with a difficult problem, but through persistence and guidance ultimately understands the concept, so too does adversity force us to lean on divine wisdom, resulting in a stronger spiritual foundation. Spurgeon suggests that adversity is often the only method through which some lessons can be learned. There are lessons that comfort and ease cannot impart because they don't push us to dig deeper or to engage with the difficult questions of life. It is in the heat of trial that we are confronted with the deeper mysteries of faith. Why do we suffer? What is the purpose behind our pain? How do we maintain hope in the face of despair? These questions require us to turn to God and wrestle with His Word in ways that may not happen in more peaceful times. Through this process, we gain wisdom that would have otherwise been inaccessible. We begin to understand, not just intellectually, but experientially, the truths of the Scriptures about perseverance, hope, and the character of God. One significant lesson that adversity teaches, according to Spurgeon, is the importance of patience. In times of trouble, we are often forced to wait for resolution, for relief, or for clarity. Patience becomes a necessary virtue as we learn to trust God's timing and surrender our desire for immediate answers. This waiting period can be frustrating, but it is precisely in the waiting that we learn to cultivate the fruits of the Spirit, such as endurance, long-suffering, and steadfastness. These virtues are essential for spiritual maturity and cannot be fully developed without the pressure of trials. Adversity teaches us the value of contentment. It is easy to be content when life is going smoothly, but it is through difficult times that we are challenged to find joy and peace, even in the midst of hardship. Spurgeon emphasizes that learning to be content in all circumstances, as Paul did, is a vital lesson that adversity uniquely imparts. It teaches us to rely on God alone for our sense of security and satisfaction, rather than depending on external circumstances. Through trials, we discover that true contentment doesn't come from comfort or ease, but from a deep, abiding trust in God's provision and sovereignty. In a more practical sense, adversity can teach us to serve others more effectively. When we have experienced pain, loss, or hardship, we are better equipped to empathize with those going through similar struggles. We develop a deeper understanding of the human condition and are able to offer comfort and encouragement to others from a place of personal experience. Spurgeon himself often spoke of how suffering can refine us, making us more compassionate and able to minister to others in a more meaningful way. Adversity teaches us the importance of gratitude. It is often through difficulty that we learn to appreciate the blessings we have, no matter how small they may seem. After a period of struggle, we gain a new perspective on life, and the things we once took for granted become sources of immense gratitude. This shift in perspective deepens our understanding of God's goodness and faithfulness, even in the midst of pain. Adversity, while often viewed as an obstacle or something to be avoided, can serve as an incredibly powerful tool for deepening our relationship with God. In the midst of life's trials, we are often drawn to seek God more earnestly, and it is in these moments of difficulty that we experience His presence in profound ways. And when life is easy, it is easy to feel self-sufficient and complacent in our relationship with God, but in times of struggle, we are reminded of our need for His help, guidance, and comfort. In the writings of Charles Spurgeon, he emphasizes that hardship can have the effect of drawing us nearer to God. Spurgeon acknowledges that while adversity can feel like a burden, it is through the pain and challenges that we often find ourselves reaching out to God in a way that we might not otherwise do. This turning to God is not born out of necessity alone, but also out of a desire to experience His closeness and guidance in our lives. When we face difficult situations, we often do not know where to turn, and that is when we instinctively look upward. We seek solace in prayer, crying out to God for comfort and intervention. In such moments, it is not uncommon for a person to experience a profound sense of God's nearness, as if he is especially close during the times of trouble. Spurgeon describes these moments as being divinely orchestrated to bring us closer to the Creator, even if they initially seem undesirable. One of the essential reasons why adversity fosters a deeper connection with God is that it creates an opportunity for surrender. When everything is going smoothly, we may believe that we are in control, but adversity has a way of stripping away our illusions of self-sufficiency. It forces us to acknowledge our vulnerability, weakness, and reliance on God's grace. Through these humbling experiences, we find that the deeper we are brought into dependence on God, the more we grow in our trust and understanding of His infinite love and mercy. Second portion. Trials serve as an opportunity for God to reveal Himself to us in ways that would not be possible in times of ease. In the book of Job, for example, Job undergoes immense suffering, and it is through this suffering that he experiences a powerful encounter with God. Before his trials, Job had heard of God, but in the midst of his pain, he comes to know God in a more intimate, personal way. The trials he faces open the door to deeper spiritual insights and a stronger relationship with his Creator. In many of Spurgeon's sermons, he speaks of how God uses suffering as a means of refining His children. Just as gold is purified in the fire, our faith is purified and strengthened in the fire of adversity. In this way, God uses difficulty not only to draw us closer, but also to shape and mold us into the image of His Son. These transformative moments of closeness to God can be some of the most spiritually enriching times of our lives, despite the pain and hardship that initially lead us there. Throughout his ministry, Spurgeon often referred to the comfort found in God's presence during times of trial. He pointed to the fact that those who have gone through great suffering can sometimes experience the greatest comfort, as they have seen God's sustaining power and love in ways that others may never have known. In this sense, adversity becomes an opportunity not only to seek God, but also to find Him in a new and deeper way. Spurgeon also believed that these experiences of God's closeness could not only transform us, but also inspire us to help others in their own times of trouble. He taught that when we experience God's comfort, we are equipped to offer that same comfort to others who are going through similar struggles. The depth of our relationship with God, cultivated through adversity, equips us to be a source of encouragement and strength to others in their times of need. Through all of this, we see that adversity, instead of separating us from God, can serve as a catalyst for a richer and more meaningful relationship with Him. The very struggles that seem to push us away from Him can, in reality, draw us nearer to His heart. These times of difficulty, though challenging, are instrumental in deepening our faith, teaching us to rely on God, and helping us to experience the fullness of His love and presence in a way that we may not have known otherwise. Endurance, in the context of facing adversity, plays a pivotal role in shaping an individual's spiritual journey. The concept of enduring through struggles, challenges, suffering for the name of God, and succeeding through the process of suffering is the basis of the righteousness we, as Christians, experiencing painful things on the cross, surpassing those things in suffering, and drawing new strength, is the basis of enduring through struggles, challenges, and growth. And hardships is not merely about surviving these experiences, but about transforming them into opportunities for growth. In the spiritual realm, endurance is viewed not just as a necessary part of life, but as an essential pathway to a greater reward, one that is far more valuable than the temporary discomforts and trials one faces. In his sermons, Charles Spurgeon frequently emphasizes that enduring adversity with a steadfast spirit brings about spiritual rewards that cannot be obtained through ease or comfort. He often compares life's struggles to a race, where the ultimate prize is not given to the one who is free from hardship, but to the one who perseveres through difficulty. This imagery aligns with the biblical notion that those who endure trials with patience and faith will receive eternal rewards. The Apostle James in the New Testament writes, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." James 1:12 NIV. Here the crown of life symbolizes the ultimate spiritual reward, the blessings and fulfillment that await those who endure and maintain their faith through life's challenges. Endurance is not only about sustaining through moments of pain, but about maintaining a positive and faithful attitude in the midst of them. It is easy to give up when life becomes difficult, but true endurance is about remaining steadfast, trusting in God's plan even when we cannot see the full picture. This aspect of endurance teaches believers that the struggle is not in vain, that there is a purpose behind every trial. It is through enduring hardship that individuals are spiritually refined, tested, and prepared for something greater. In fact, some of the most powerful spiritual testimonies come from those who have faced the greatest adversities and emerged stronger, more compassionate, and more connected to their faith. The concept of endurance leading to reward also ties into the biblical principle of sowing and reaping. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." This passage underlines the importance of maintaining perseverance, even when the rewards are not immediately visible. The reward may not come in the form of earthly riches, but rather in spiritual growth, inner peace, and an intimate relationship with God. The reward is often in the form of personal transformation, a deeper understanding of one's purpose, and the wisdom gained through overcoming trials. In addition to the internal rewards, endurance brings about a sense of testimony and witness to others. People who have endured significant struggles often become beacons of hope and encouragement to those facing similar challenges. Their perseverance becomes an example for others to follow, and their stories of triumph over adversity become a source of inspiration. The reward, therefore, is not only personal, but extends to the wider community, as the strength and hope of one person can uplift an entire group. In Spurgeon's sermons, he points out that the endurance gained through trials prepares believers for greater blessings and responsibilities. Just as an athlete builds stamina and strength to compete at higher levels, a Christian's endurance prepares them to handle the greater purposes that God has for them in the future. The more one endures, the more equipped they become for the next challenge. And with each challenge faced, the believer becomes more capable of handling even greater blessings and responsibilities. This growth is not just in the individual's capacity to endure, but also in their ability to serve, lead, and inspire others. As we return from meetings with other leaders, we share the blessings of God with the brethren in the group by saying, in this sense, the endurance one demonstrates during trials is also a form of spiritual maturation. It represents a maturing faith, one that is no longer swayed by temporary circumstances, but is firmly rooted in the hope of eternal rewards. It is through this perseverance that the believer becomes more like Christ, as he himself endured immense suffering for the greater good of humanity. Enduring adversity is not about simply getting through it, but about embracing the opportunity for growth, transformation, and the ultimate reward. The reward for endurance is not always immediate, but is promised by God, who assures that those who endure with faith and patience will ultimately receive the crown of life. The endurance through suffering not only strengthens the individual's spirit, but also serves as a witness to others and prepares them for greater blessings ahead.